We have some new box office numbers for Monday for Endgame, which brings its current total to $2,238,477,849 for its total worldwide box office. The US domestic total as of Monday is $631,977,849. Where does this $2.2 billion put it on the non-inflation adjusted worldwide totals? Basically exactly where it was on Sunday. So it's still above Titanic, and it is still underneath Avatar. So Avatar is sitting on $2.788 billion. That is really the last target we have left to go for, and it is already past Titanic. So it's still number 2. Can it get to be the number 1 film in non-inflation adjusted total worldwide box office? On the non-inflation adjusted US box office totals, it was the 8th largest film on Sunday. Now, with the $630 million, it has moved past the Marvel's The Avengers, the 7th largest film ever in the US box office without inflation. Next film on the list is Jurassic World with $652 million. It probably won't pass that on Tuesday, but it should pass that on Wednesday. And if we take a look at our chart again with The Force Awakens, Avatar, Infinity War, Jurassic World, Endgame, and Star Wars The Last Jedi, we can see that it is now above the total for The Last Jedi. So there is nothing that can happen now for Avengers Endgame to earn less money in the US domestic market than Star Wars The Last Jedi. That was my worst case scenario film. If the film absolutely died after the first weekend, it may only, in quotes, earn the kind of money that The Last Jedi earned, but it is above The Last Jedi right now, and it is very close to being above Jurassic World. So although it is sharply bending around right now from the money it just got from Monday, it still can't really bend around so sharply to be underneath Jurassic World or Infinity War. So it really still has to beat what Infinity War got, and it really has to smash what Avatar got here as well. So Avatar got a total of $760 million in the US domestic market without inflation. It's going to have to beat that still without a doubt. We can see that it is still way over the Star Wars The Force Awakens line, but it is moving in a little bit. So it is looking like the gap will still be closed here. It is very difficult for it to beat this very large total that Star Wars The Force Awakens has, but it is still in the lead. So it is still in front of Star Wars The Force Awakens at the same point in time. The current projected number for the US domestic market for Monday is $10,700,000, which is a 76% reduction from the Sunday. It's slightly better than what Infinity War did at this point in time. Infinity War would have gotten around about $9.8 million if all the things were the same as Endgame. So it's a little bit better, but not that much better. I thought it would have been quite a bit better than this $10 million figure, but that's what we have, $10.7 million for the Monday box office. So if we take a look at our records on Box Office Mojo, it's already got them all. So it has got the opening week, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, 6-day, 7-day, 8-day, 9-day, and the 10-day gross. That's all that Box Office Mojo actually records. So it has beaten Star Wars The Force Awakens for all of these. It's just had its 11th day. It has the new 11th day record with $630 million, but that isn't actually something that Box Office Mojo tracks. But this is also the 11th day highest film ever. And on these other records, it also has all of these: fastest to 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, and 500. It also has the fastest to 550, the fastest to 600. The only thing we're really looking at now is, can it get the fastest to 700? So again, Box Office Mojo doesn't keep any records past what you can see here. It doesn't keep anything past 500 million. But the fastest film to $700 million right now is Star Wars The Force Awakens. Can Endgame earn $700 million quicker than what Star Wars The Force Awakens earned? Here we have the raw numbers for the box offices for Star Wars The Force Awakens and Endgame, and there's no inflation put on the Star Wars The Force Awakens numbers. The last 6 numbers for Endgame are in green. They're all projected numbers, so those numbers haven't actually happened yet. That's not numbers that are real. They're my projected numbers. If you look at the last black number there, the $10.7 million, that's what we just got for the Monday, bringing its total to $631 million. Now, if we look across to the left for the same time at Force Awakens, we have $31.3 million. So Force Awakens absolutely smashed what Endgame got, and that was to be expected because Endgame in no way was going to get that kind of money. Force Awakens was released at the end of December, and for its first 2 weeks that weren't part of the weekend, the weekdays of the first 2 weeks, it made an absolute massive amount of money. Endgame got something close in the previous week, which is just a testament to how much money Endgame was making, that it got somewhat close to Star Wars The Force Awakens weekday figures, but now you can see it's nowhere near. So this $10 million, nowhere near the $31 million Force Awakens got, and this is why it was always difficult for Endgame to earn more money than Star Wars The Force Awakens. Even though it smashed the opening weekend records, it just doesn't have enough money already earned to keep up with the ridiculous money that Star Wars The Force Awakens kept earning. Now, if you look at the Tuesday, I've got projected here, I think it'll get about $13.7 million. I think there's a good chance it might actually make something like $15 or $16 million, but this is the ratio that Infinity War earned money on its equivalent Tuesday. So I've got $13.7 million. And again, Star Wars The Force Awakens will smash at $29 million. On the Wednesday, Star Wars got $28 million. I'm saying it got about $9 million for Endgame, and $22 million on the Thursday. It'll absolutely smash the Thursday for Endgame. But if we look at the total amount of money for the day after that, the Friday, we can see that the total for Star Wars The Force Awakens on the Friday is $686 million. And the total for Endgame, I think, will be $684 million. Now, whether or not the Star Wars The Force Awakens has more money or less than Endgame at that point in time isn't that important. I think they'll be very close either way. But if we look at the next day, the Saturday, that's where Star Wars The Force Awakens made the $700 million. So that is the quickest $700 million on that Saturday. And I think the Endgame will get it on that Saturday as well. So right now, to me, it looks like Endgame will not have the fastest 700 million ever. It'll actually tie Star Wars The Force Awakens for the equal record for the fastest to $700 million. As I said, I think my prediction for Tuesday here could be a little bit off. It could get, say, $15 million, but even if we say $16.7 million, another $3 million, I don't think that's enough to bring it to the $700 million a day early. Okay, so right now I'm saying $684 million for Friday. That means it needs another $16 million during the week over what I'm estimating to break the record, to get the record a day earlier. I just don't think it can get an extra $16 million over what I'm predicting here. So I don't think Endgame can get the record for the fastest 700 million. But before this, it's got all the records. So it has beaten Force Awakens to all of the other milestones, but I don't think that it can actually get the fastest 700 million. I think it will tie Star Wars The Force Awakens for the equal best time to $700 million. And here we have the exact same information on a chart. The blue line is the Star Wars The Force Awakens box office, the green line is the Endgame box office, and the red line is my projected Endgame box office. Where the blue line and the red line touch, that is on the Friday coming up. So that's what my projected numbers are saying. Friday is where Star Wars will come up and meet the Endgame box office. And then after that, over the weekend, they'll get a fairly similar weekend. After that, Star Wars does not get the mammoth weekday numbers that it got for the first 2 weeks, and they may be somewhat similar to what Endgame actually gets. But I still think that Endgame will earn less money in the US domestic market than Star Wars The Force Awakens, but it is still pretty close. Okay, so it's still going to be pretty close, but I don't think it can make this $936 million. On the total world box office, we have $2.23 billion for Endgame, which is still a long way behind the $2.788 billion for Avatar. Now, it is very close for having only been open for 11 days, but money is quickly running out. Here is the box office for the Chinese and the US totals for Endgame. The red line is the US and Canada market, and the blue line is China. And you can see the blue line for China is flattening out a lot. Deadline had reported they thought China would get around about $610 million for Endgame. Then they said 616, and they've said 606. So they're kind of around that figure still. So somewhere around $610, $620 million is what they're predicting. And they've been very good with all their Endgame predictions. So Deadline, don't know how good they are for other films, but for Endgame, they've been excellent with all their predictions. And this line does look like it's flattening out. So I also think it'll be very difficult to think that China would get more than $620 million. And so that means we're probably looking at another maybe $30 million out of China in total from where we're actually at the moment. Now, we might have another $250 million, maybe $300 million from the US. I think 300 is too much, but 250 might be reasonable, maybe even more than 250. But if we add up this sort of 250 plus this other 30 or 50 from China, we get a figure that's maybe roughly like an extra $300 million. So we've got $300 extra million perhaps that can come out of the China and the US box office for Endgame. So that would take us to around about $2.54 billion. So $2.54 billion, and Avatar has got $2.788 billion. So the real question is there enough money left from all of the other countries in the world to make up the difference? So it looks like things are slowing down quite a lot, and this $2.788 billion is looking harder and harder to get to. It's still very possible, but the Chinese money is just about done. Is there enough money from the other larger foreign markets, South Korea, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Australia? Can they contribute enough, and also Brazil and Mexico, to actually bring it over that amount? Now, the only real thing in the way of Endgame right now is the Pokemon film coming out next weekend. There aren't very large projections for it, but it might be enough to sort of change things up a little bit and maybe weaken it slightly. But I think right now the studio is predicting a $50 million box office. I think there are other estimates saying a $70 to $80 million. So in the scheme of things, that's not really much competition at all. Endgame should retain the number one film over the weekend, but even if it doesn't, I don't think it'll affect its box office much. So I don't think the Pokemon film will do too much to Endgame, and that's about it for the next week. So as usual, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe we'll get a 50% increase in the box office tomorrow for Tuesday. Maybe it'll get $15 million, or maybe about $16 million. If so, that may give it a little bit of an edge over Star Wars to get to the quickest 700 million, but I still don't think it can. So I still think they will tie for the fastest $700 million ever, which is the next record we have to look at. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.